Yeah, you're gonna be if you read fiction, you're just gonna be more creative,
Mm.
period. Like you're not gonna come up with the idea for Neopets after reading Zero to One by Peter Thiel. Like you're not gonna be like, oh my God, I just had this amazing creativity like insight and I want to go and create, I'm constantly reading fiction, um, trying to, interact with creative mediums, video games, comics, like you name it, to like basically connect pieces in my brain to create creative insights. Cause like my job is to like build things like Neopets for ourselves and for clients. So like I kind of need like that's my hack. My hack is like how do I bring the most creative mediums to me so those connections happen?
Mm.
I wonder if you agree or disagree, Lee.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that all sounds right. I don't have the counterfactual. I don't know what I would be
Yeah.
like if I hadn't spent my entire childhood and adolescence reading nonfiction instead. But I think people often tell me like I write very differently from other people, or
Hmm.
I speak very differently than other people. I speak like a character in a novel, or
I mean, the
yeah,
way you said that about the room and the window opening and the fresh air and the smell outside, like the way you described that situation, it was described in a way of like someone that I would imagine has read a lot of fiction in their life, because you described it with a lot of imagery that in my mind I was like, oh, I can picture that entire scene. I can picture that versus, I think someone that had read a lot of nonfiction their entire life
yeah,
probably would have been a lot more like direct and to the point of exactly that. And it wouldn't have presented that same imagery. So I would guess the
totally.
counterfactual exists there.
I think, yeah, the first order effect is it's definitely influenced the way that I write and speak and communicate. The second order effect is probably a lot of what you had described, Greg, in terms of um, like more creativity, maybe more empathy for users, and like just tons of different types of users. Because that is the exercise of reading fiction, is like deeply empathizing with various characters. Um, yeah, it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, I also just the last point to this before we dive into actual, business business related stuff is like I also have this perception that the entire like nonfiction book industry, business books, self help books, like all of that stuff, the vast majority of those things are like 200 pages, but could have been said in a like 2 page or 5 page
Oh,
article or newsletter.
absolutely.
And so that
Absolutely.
troubles me. Like, I don't think you could condense a beautiful novel into 2 or 3 pages, because the character development and like the whole scenery and the world that's being built cannot be condensed. But most of those books are like you read the first 5 pages and I get it. I understand your thesis. I understand like your key point of evidence that you just brought up to hook people
Yeah.
in. And now I can probably leave. And so I actually think the newsletter industry and like, people like you and people like Mario at the Generalist, and he and Packy write super long pieces, and so I can't even read theirs because they're too long. Sometimes I need to like listen to
Right. There
it.
needs to
But
be a newsletter to summarize the newsletter.
yeah, totally. And I think there's like $1 million opportunity in doing that, actually, just summarizing all the great business newsletters, which is a topic for another day. But I do think that like the newsletter industry and the blogging industry has disrupted fundamentally nonfiction book writing,
Yes.
because it's
I
just
completely agree.
I just yeah tightens
I
it.
think, well, I think it's a different motivation set on the part of the author. I think people write books for lots of different reasons, not just to
I want to go on
convey
a speaking tour.
information. Exactly. They want to, I mean, it's very much a like kind of life goals, like bucket list kind of thing to do. Um, but yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that's why nonfiction has spawned industries that summarize books like Blinkist, or
Mm,
like I feel like TLDRs were invented for
yeah,
nonfiction books.
yeah.